I think the topic is very clear mentioned. It is the problem statement for research in electric and hybrid vehicle domain, right? So this particular topic, the short session, I want to just address some of the key areas, where as a faculty or as a research scholar or as a student to focus on in this electric vehicle. So I'm just going to summarize some of the pain points in the electric vehicle domain. And I believe this session will give you an overview of the challenges. And I think the upcoming sessions would give you even more detailed information on each challenges actually. So when we look at the automotive industry, just to verify, yes, my screen is clearly visible, the Indian automotive industry and opportunities. Is that slide is visible?
Yes, sir. It's fully visible, sir. No issues.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So if since the topic is more concentrated, more focused on India, if we, I think there is a need to understand the Indian automotive industry or the automotive market. So if we look at the current trend, the current market situation of India, nearly 81, the overall automobile running in our country, 81.2% of this is contributed by the two-wheeler segment, right? Whereas nearly 14.6% of the total automobile in India is actually passenger vehicles, and nearly 3.1% in the commercial vehicle segment, and 1.2% in the three-wheeler segment. So it is very clear that India has more number of two-wheelers. It's a more two-wheeler population. So so what happens is, I think government has set some target, right, to 2030, that they want to go for kind of more electric vehicles in 2030. Right, I think that ambitions are very clear. And because why those ambitions are clear? Because in some way, India is a major two-wheeler market, and I think the things happening in India right now at present, right, like the launch of vehicles, some good performing vehicles like Ather Energy or Ola electric scooters, all these kind of performance based vehicles which are meeting almost all the demands, the range of the vehicle or the acceleration performance, top speed, gradability, everything, all the aspects of the electric vehicle have been improved a lot. And now we can see a product which can be directly can be a competitor to or competitor to the present IC engine based two-wheelers. So such a performance, such an acceleration, and such a lot of other attributes also matches very well. And not only that, as someone's rightly mentioned in the beginning, the overall cost, the total cost of ownership, so maintenance cost, everything, adds positive things to the electric vehicle segment. And we see India is a very big market. India is a very big market. After China, India is a very big market for automotive domain. And obviously, this will attract all the automobile manufacturers across the globe to start their manufacturing plant or start their R&D facilities in India for easy operations. Especially whichever the company focuses on the Asia and the nearby continents, obviously India will be one of the hub for this electric vehicle domain. But when if India needs to become a hub, in this electric vehicle domain, it is not only the population which is going to support that. Because the population is there, then it means the market is there. If market is there, automatically there is a demand, and the manufacturers will be automatically attracted. But this is not something which will be the focused one. The main focus should be how indigenously we will be able to develop the components. So even today we have so many automobile companies, electric vehicle manufacturers in India, but indigenization is very less. So how we are still dependent upon the countries like China, Korea, and few other countries, in the area of electric mobility. Even developed countries, say for example, take United States of America. USA. Even USA is very recently, they recently launched a footprint, a document called Lithium Battery Footprint of US. Even they are very clearly telling that even US is dependent on China. Such a developed nation is still dependent on China for the electric mobility domain. And there is a very big threat for US. Such a developing country like US has a threat of having supply chain issues in the electric mobility related to electric mobility. So today we are all moving to electric mobility, but we should always think about the sustainability, right? That is very important. So if we look at the sustainability and how the dependency of this technology on the other countries, definitely it is a threat to not only to USA, even for India it is a big threat, right? So now we are all moving to electric mobility. One day if the materials we are getting from other countries, if it is not coming to us, and if we are not getting the enough supply chain from for the materials regarding electric vehicles, then that is going to be a big challenge. So I would strongly appreciate any research that would bring up indigenization in our whole in the whole product development cycle of this electric vehicle. And it has to be the usage of materials, the usage of technology, the manufacturing technology, materials technology, everything should attribute to Indian conditions, Indian economy, and India's availability also, right? So still there is a lot of demand, even though globally electric vehicles have developed a lot, I can see very clearly for India, it has to be an India-based development. So India-based research should take place. Then only we can actually get more and more improvement in this whole electric vehicle domain. So I am getting something like this.
Sir, sorry for this, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
yeah.
So we can block that, sir. You can.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, can you remove that, sir? This annotation. Hello. Hello.
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm not used to this annotation actually in WebEx especially.
Sir, you can continue, sir. We will disable it, sir.
No, I'm not able to move this screen actually. That's why when I push the screen, automatically annotation is working.
Okay, sir. அவர்தான் பண்றாரு.
Yeah, it's better.
Gopi, sir. Sir has been muted.
Sir, you can click that three dots, sir. You go for that options.
Gopi, sir has been muted, Gopi, sir. Kindly unmute, sir.
Yes, now it's okay, sir.
Gopi, sir has been muted, Gopi, sir.
Sir, please unmute, sir. Prashant, sir. Sir, click that Cisco Webex and
Yes, sir. Yeah, unmuted.
Yeah. Wait a moment. Yeah. Is my screen visible, sir?
yes, sir.
Yeah. So in addition to this strong demand in India, so now I think very recently government of India has released this subsidy, but I think this something, this particular information may not be aware to many people, right? This subsidy, the FAME subsidy announced by the central government of India, even by some of the state governments in India, is only applicable if for the vehicles which meet the minimum eligibility criteria, right? So what are the minimum eligibility criteria? So basically for electric vehicles, for example, if it is an electric two-wheeler, the electric two-wheeler should have minimum range of 80 kilometer, and they should have a minimum maximum speed. That means minimum maximum speed of 40 kilometer per hour, minimum acceleration of 0.65 meter per second square, and also the energy consumption also has a limit. So maximum energy consumption of that two-wheeler should be less than 8 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometer. So these are all different eligibility criteria. And in addition to that, the government of India has also clearly notified in the FAME 2 that only batteries with advanced battery technologies like lithium ion batteries, right? Lithium ferrophosphate, lithium nickel manganese cobalt, so lithium based or other advanced batteries only eligible for these FAME 2 subsidy. I think in the coming days, we will be able to utilize this FAME 2 subsidy from the government. And I believe I request everyone to spread this awareness to all the public, especially people in villages, not only in cities, because today we think development or improvement only should happen in cities, but it's not the right thing. So kindly spread the awareness to everywhere, whoever you see, spread the awareness about this subsidy, so that all of us will get benefited from this particular initiative from the government of India. And there are also minimum warranty requirements also, like for two-wheeler, the vehicle should have minimum 3-year warranty and 20,000 kilometer warranty minimum. I'm telling. So all these things, help us to meet the demand, the particular requirement of the customer. So now we also, once we come into this electric vehicle domain, one of the challenge is it's throughout its product life cycle. The electric vehicle has so many challenges, right? So when we look at the cradle to gate, that means the production area, right? Starting from raw material extraction and the component production, and then into a vehicle level assembly, right? We call it as a cradle to gate. So in this particular region, there is a lot of energy utilization is happening here. Even though electric vehicles are shown to be very clean, green vehicles, in my perspective, personally, if you ask me, definitely electric vehicle is not something very green. Obviously, it has its own challenges. One of the main drawback of electric vehicle, I would say, is its dependency on the materials, some raw materials. So today's electric vehicle, it's completely dependent upon the some of the key raw materials in the industry. So I think that's a thread for the whole industry. If these raw materials are not available at a point of time, then obviously the whole industry will collapse, whole system will collapse. So there is a huge demand on the material science material science domain, and the people who are working in the material science domain have a lot of scope for work for improvement in the electric vehicle domain, as currently the whole electric vehicle industry is dependent on certain key materials. And once we come to the usage phase, right? So the question is, where does the energy, where does the electricity comes from for an electric vehicle? So at present, more than 70% of the electric vehicle electricity produced from coal-based sources in India. There is a huge shift needed from the way the electricity is generated. So with the move from just moving from petrol diesel vehicle to electric vehicle doesn't mean that it is going to bring down the CO2 emissions. No, it may add the things, it may add some CO2, I believe, in that case. So the only way to reach the destination is basically to move to renewable energy sources based electricity generation. And in that case, the electricity produced for the electric vehicles or replaced by the electric vehicle will become more cleaner. And by that situation, definitely we can call it as a green vehicle or a clean vehicle. And it's not the challenge is not only end up in the production and the usage phase, but it is also there. It is also continuing till the recycling phase. So after the usage of the battery, or after the usage of these motors or all these components, what is the end of life? What is the ability of the component to get a second life? Say, for example, if we have a battery pack, so how the vehicle design is being provided, or how the battery design is carried out in order to provide its readiness for a second life. So what is the recyclability, right? There are many challenges in this area. So anyone working in, who is basically interested in working on the sustainable things, have a huge scope on areas like improving the recyclability of the electric vehicles, right? Improving I would say, improving the recyclability of the batteries, improving the recyclability of the motors, right? So what are all the things that can be done to improve the recyclability, right? So after, say, imagine now we are using a battery pack for 15 years in an electric vehicle. After 15 years of its lifetime, now what is the remaining capacity? So what is the capacity fade that had happened in the battery? And what is the possibility for the battery can be used in a second life application? Maybe an energy storage application, for example, right? So what is the possibility for such kind of things that could be available for the industry? Because recyclability is a very important aspect, because recyclability adds more benefits, brings back the material once again to the ecosystem, right? So that we don't look for more and more materials. For example, one example I just want to take. One of the material which is in high demand in the electric vehicle domain currently is the cobalt, right? Everyone know this material. And nearly 70% of almost global cobalt is present in the country of Congo. So the whole world is right now dependent on Congo for the material cobalt, which is a very crucial material for the battery manufacturing industry, right? So like this, every material, say for example, magnetic materials, like for the manufacturing of the electric motors, like neodymium, like so many materials are there. Like all these materials are particularly available only in countries like China. So every material, some of the materials are very attributed towards specific countries. So I think there's a huge demand to find alternative materials, so that India should not be in a situation dependent on particular country on in terms of manufacturing any sort of technology for the electric vehicle domain. Completely, we should become independent of the other countries, dependency on the other countries, and that's a way ahead in my view. And more than this, one of the strong push, we can very clearly see from 2010, if we say 2030, at present we are in 2021, we can see the drastic change in the lithium battery price. So in 2011, the battery price was almost $917 per kilowatt hour, whereas at present we are even we are around you can say around $120 per kilowatt, and it is projected to reach $58 per kilowatt of battery lithium for 2030. So there is a huge price drop happening, and this is what this projection is very clearly showcases that by 2025 itself, not 2030, by 2025 itself, electric vehicles will be equal to that means in terms of pricing, right? In terms of pricing, by 2025 itself, especially the electric two-wheeler market in India, it will become equal to the IC engine domain, IC engine vehicles, because the price change happening in the lithium battery industry is very drastically going down. And this showcases, this is very clear that the industry see a very demand and the demand will be at its peak by 2030. So when we come to this electric vehicle, success of this electric vehicle industry, one of the very challenging aspect is material choice and the lightweight design. So when we talk about material choice, for this electric vehicle domain, the material choice is actually attributed to three important areas. One is the performance. Second one is sustainability. Sir, I'm getting some annotation requests continuously from Mr. Jeevanandam Ramachandran.
Yes, sir. We have informed, sir. Sir, we will remove it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, please. So the whole EV industry, the EV success is attributed towards the material choice and the lightweight design. And the material choice and the lightweight design has to happen. This can't happen just to lightweight the vehicle, but it is still lightweighting. The lightweighting of the electric vehicle or the material choice for each and every component of the electric vehicle should actually consider the three important factors called performance, cost, and sustainability. So when we look at the performance, it means the range. So the main reason for going for lightweight design is basically to improve the range of the electric vehicle. So because when we reduce the mass, the whole weight of the electric vehicle, obviously the whole resistance towards motion reduces, and obviously the power required for propulsion of the vehicle gets drastically reduced, and thereby we can improve the range of the electric vehicle. At the same time, the acceleration performance. So today, the initial point of time, when 2010 to 2015, electric vehicles were not very successful because the acceleration behavior, the dynamic behavior of the vehicle was not matching with the actual demand, actual expectation of the customer. But today, we are having very good products which are having superior acceleration compared to even petrol diesel vehicles present in the market. Right? So this is possible because of lightweight design. So when we have lightweight design, these are all benefits that we can extract. And finally, the energy consumption. So the total energy consumption of the battery. So if the energy consumption of the battery has been reduced, obviously the need for the battery will be reduced. So we can go for smaller batteries, or if you want to have a bigger range, then we can increase the size of the battery without increasing the weight of the vehicle. At the same time, the charging time. So when we have a smaller battery, obviously the charging time could be further reduced. And the dependency, when we go for lightweight material, also it brings up challenges. So how we are going to balance the safety of the vehicle. So whether the vehicle will be able to meet the crash safety requirements. What about the durability of the vehicle throughout its lifetime? So all these performance attributes are actually some of the drivers for the material choice and the lightweight design of the electric vehicle. At the same time, the overall CO2 utilization, I really clearly said in the beginning that even electric vehicles are shown as a magic kind of thing in the current market, that it is a green or a clean technology. No. Still, there is a lot of work going on to improve its sustainability. At present, electric vehicle is not a sustainable transport or sustainable mobility system at present. So there is a huge work, a lot of work need to be done in order to make it more sustainable for the system, especially on the reusability, recyclability of the electric vehicle component. And overall, people are now we are all moving to reduce the cost of the electric vehicle. Each and every component, the inverter, battery, especially the battery, which is one of the major cost contributor for the electric vehicle. So our material choice, right material choice, will definitely have a huge impact on the manufacturing requirements, supply chain requirements for the particular material. So obviously a good material choice will obviously have a good impact on the cost, the final cost of the electric vehicle. For example, when we look at this particular Tesla Model 3, we can see that the Tesla Model 3 has a blend of multiple materials. For example, this Tesla Model 3 is a strategic blend of aluminum and ultra high strength steel. So there is a huge demand for research on how to apply the aluminum and the ultra high strength steel and even other alternative materials, right, in order to still meeting the requirements of the industry. So currently the industry is using the combination of aluminum, mild steel, high strength steel, and ultra high strength steel. So good amount of research is needed in order to understand the benefits of having a blended mix of materials in the electric vehicle domain. So when we look at this e-drivetrain, the electric powertrain system, so we have so many key areas to work, key areas where improvements are needed. So one is the high power density and high torque density. So today the industry needs an electric powertrain with a very high power density and torque density. So high power density means what? The motor or the inverter, the power electronic system, or the whole traction drive unit, we call it as. So this traction drive unit should be able to deliver very higher power. At the same time, it should occupy very lesser volume. And as we move for higher speed performance requirements, right? So if we are expecting, customers will be expecting like higher speed. Some of the customer may demand like more than 150 km per hour or 100 km per hour. So when an electric vehicle needs to operate at such very higher speed of performance, obviously a wide speed range is dependency will come onto picture on the electric vehicle. So whether the electric motor technology that we are going to utilize, whether it has the ability to work at a wide operating range. So how to improve the motor's operating the control to operate the motor in a wide operating range, because today's electric vehicle, the modern electric vehicle, demand the motors operating close to 20,000 RPM. 20,000 RPM. Can you imagine an electric motor of say 20, 30, 50 kilowatt operating at 20,000 RPM? Obviously, there are going to be many challenges. So on the durability aspect. So whether the electric vehicle can withstand the forces acting on the each and every individual component of the electric motor. Right. So when the motor needs to operate at such a huge RPM, obviously we need to understand whether the ability of an inverter or the switching frequencies, the operating switching frequencies of the inverter in order to operate the electric motor at such huge RPMs like 20,000 RPM. At the same time, even though the electric vehicles are more components are going to work at these kind of tough conditions, still there is a huge need to maintain high efficiency. And at the same time, we also need to maintain better noise, vibration, harshness. So anyone involved in research today, these are all the key areas which our research focus could be. Improving the noise, vibration, and the harshness characteristics of the electric vehicle components, or even at vehicle level. Bringing the design of each and every component at reasonable cost. High reliability, so maintaining the reliability of the whole electric vehicle or the subsystems as well. That is also a very important aspect. And in addition to that, the electric powertrain should have high intermittent overload capability, because sometimes the demand from the electric vehicle powertrain, the acceleration or the performance demand is not always same, right? So for example, can you people imagine a situation where an electric vehicle starts from a gradient? Okay, imagine an electric vehicle starts from a gradient. Imagine the gradient is almost 30-degree, right? Can you imagine the amount of torque required? The amount of torque required for the electric vehicle in order to sustain or in order to negotiate such kind of demand, right? Yes, definitely it is going to be a very challenging journey for the electric vehicle. So an electric powertrain should have the ability to withstand such kind of overload capabilities. It can happen intermittently. So the overall, these are all some of the key challenges in the electric powertrain domain. And in addition to this, it is very important to have a target in our mind, right? So even in India right now, I'm very worried, in some cases, the government of India or even the research associations in India have not clearly given guideline for the research scholars or the faculties. I'm really worried about it. And I don't know if it is available, that is not reaching the faculties either. Any of the faculties here, have you people heard any targets from the government, like this is the kilowatt you have to achieve, this is the cost target we have to achieve, this is a power density target we have to achieve? Have you people heard anything like that from Indian government? Any such ambitious targets are there? No. So when we see India in terms of research, we are definitely lagging a lot in that area. So what can drive a research is basically a target. As an ambitious target is very important, right? So an ambitious target is not only for the industry, it is also for the academic research professionals, because these kind of targets from the government will basically give a boost for the faculties or the research scholars to perform the research activities in this area. So when you look at the Department of Energy in US, for example, they have very clearly set an ambitious target for 2025, 2030, 2050. So here I am showing you one of the very very closer target for 2025, which has been launched in Department of Energy in USA. So the DOE in USA has set a target for the electric motor. For example, the electric motor in 2020, it was costing $4.7 per kilowatt. The target was $4.7 per kilowatt of motor. Whereas for the in 2025, the target of Department of Energy is to achieve $3.3 per kilowatt for the electric motor. And this is not just the improving the not just reducing the cost of the electric motor. The cost of the electric motor reduction is basically attributed towards improvement in the power density. You can see that the Department of Energy US has clearly set a target for 2025 from 2020. So 2020, the target is for 5.7 kilowatt per liter of volume, the power density target, whereas for 2025, they want to achieve 50 kilowatt per liter. So today, all the automotive manufacturers, starting from passenger car vehicle manufacturers or truck and bus manufacturers, everyone are using these targets or developing their technology towards meeting these ambitious targets from the United States of India's Department of Energy. So they have set a target for electric motor, the power electronic component of the electric motor, like the inverter and DC-DC converters. And they also set some targets for the onboard chargers. So the targets are focusing on the cost, focusing on the power density, focusing on the efficiency, focusing on the specific power. This is where the focus should be. So even though here India says, our Indian government says India should move into electric domain. India should jump into electric domain. But but there is a very poor amount of support. You could say, still more support is required, more push is required in order to make indigenization. So the current push from the government is just to make India as a manufacturing hub, right? But indigenization also, in addition to making India as a manufacturing hub, indigenization of each and every technology, the motor or the converter, inverter, charger, all these components will bring up more and more benefits to India, right? So we can see this overall, these are all the different targets that our focus should be. So as a research scholar, there are many research scholars present here. So I am presenting this to you because just to give you an idea that this is where the focus should be in your research. So the industry needs to achieve these particular targets in the upcoming years. And whatever the research that is going to act towards this particular area definitely will be a contribution to the industry and the society. So when we take the electric motor, for example, when we take the electric motor system, some of the technical barriers are there, in the electric motor technology. And obviously, there are some potential solutions I just want to showcase here. One is, some of the technical barriers are like the magnet cost and the rare earth element price volatility. Today, the electric motors like the permanent magnet synchronous motor or the switched reluctance motor or the synchronous reluctance motors or the brushless DC motor, induction motor. So especially the PMSM and BLDC, these motors, they are very highly dependent on the magnets, permanent magnets. So the magnet cost is one of the very big technical, one of the barrier, economic barrier, you can say. At the same time, the dependency of the particular motor technology. So the dependency of the PMSM motor technology or the dependency of the BLDC motor technology on the magnet materials is one of the technical barrier behind the electric motor development, especially the traction electric motors. At the same time, the material property optimization. So today, the materials that we use for the electric motor, starting from the stack materials like for the rotor or the stator stack, or the materials that are needed for the special materials that are needed for the bearings. Today, the electric motors, they can't work with conventional bearings. They need a specific special bearings which can operate in the presence of leakage voltages, because electric motors, when they are operating at different frequencies, there are possibilities of leakage current and leakage voltages. So the bearings that we use in the electric motors can't be a conventional bearing. So all these things, adds up technical challenge on the electric motor operation. At the same time, today the electric motors, they need to operate at very higher RPMs. I clearly mentioned in the beginning. So when the electric motor needs to operate at higher RPM, then obviously the materials, the materials that are needed for this particular area, the materials which are behind this particular area, definitely it is one of the barrier, in this segment. So there is a strong demand, to reduce the rare earth element, rare earth magnet content. So whatever the research that we perform, on the electric motor, right, that could be towards these particular focus areas, right? So for example, reduce the rare earth magnet content, elimination of the heavy rare earth elements. At the same time, when we go for materials, different operating performance requirements of the electric motor, the electric motor's thermal management problems are going to increase. So today, the electric motor technology, all this PMSM, BLDC, induction, switched reluctance motor, all these motors have one common problem called thermal management. So there could be a lot of scope. That there could be, there is a lot of scope on improving the thermal management. That means thermal benefit, the thermal capability of an electric motor technology in order to meet the dynamic requirements of the electric vehicles. So your research, your research could focus on improving the thermal management techniques of the electric motor. And once we have a better thermal management, obviously we can further reduce the dependency on some of the key materials, right? Some of the key areas we can improve. Obviously, when we improve the thermal management of the electric vehicle, obviously the overall reliability of the electric motor technology will also improve. And obviously, if an electric vehicle motor sustaining for 10 years can be improved to 15 years, right? Obviously, if such a lifetime enhancement obviously will add more benefits to the society. So the electric motor has a lot of technical barriers, and obviously a lot of research is going on in this particular area. Some of the key research areas, some of the key innovations happening in this particular area is basically to improve the power density. For example, people are going for using printable magnetic materials for the motors. So instead of using laminations, so that is one of the approach to improve the power density or high speed performance of the electric motor by using 3D printing materials. So how can we apply 3D printing technology into the printable materials for the motor, both for the rotor as well as the stator, so without going for laminations. Secondly, what about the ability to utilize this covatic steel? So there is a need, strong need for the lower cost, achieving lower cost in the electric motor development. So obviously people are moving towards high efficiency steels, high efficiency electrical steels presently towards the electric motor development. So in that way, these covatic steels is one of the approach to achieve this cost optimization and high efficiency improvement. And at the same time, the winding technology on the motor that could be improved further. We can say people are working on ultra conductors for the motor windings. So when we are utilizing this covatic copper and copper or nanotube based alloys for the higher conductivity windings, these could be two different approaches to improve the conductivity of the copper, at the same time reduce the size as well as improve the efficiency of the electric motor. And there is a strong demand, the high, we can implement a novel high power density rare earth motor topologies, right? Because these topologies are very important at present, because as I very clearly said, today's electric motors in electric vehicle, they need to operate at higher RPMs, like 20,000 RPM or more than 20,000 RPM. In such cases, the material which we are going to utilize should be optimally selected in order to meet that particular operating requirements. It is going to be very challenging days for the material science and manufacturing technology people. And when we come to the power electronics part, right, jump from the motor to the power electronics, the current trend, currently the power electronic challenges is actually one of the technical barrier on this power electronics area is the application of these wide bandgap devices. Today, these wide bandgap semiconductors that we can utilize in the power electronics segment brings up many challenges in this area. So yeah, there is a good amount of research needed on how to utilize or how to do better integration, better integration design. So today people are using these wide bandgap devices and implementing multi-physics integration design to enable optimal usage. So currently the present semiconducting switching devices, right, they are not definitely having the enough capability. They do not fully utilize the wide bandgap devices, especially the ability of these devices with to perform at high voltage, high temperature, and high frequency capabilities. So there is a huge demand at present in the industry to perform multi-physics integration in order to optimize, reduce the overall cost involved in the power electronics development. And there is also a strong research needed in order to improve the temperature, the high temperature capability of these power electronic components. Say, for example, the temperature tolerances of the layers and the materials and the interfaces around the semiconducting switching devices, they need to be improved for compact high performance wide bandgap based components. So on some of the potential solutions, there could be a lot of optimization could be done. So these optimization of these power electronic components could be achieved by a lot of simulations. So one of the way that can be utilized for reaching this optimization is basically to utilize the model-based development approach. So today the industry is actually highly dependent on the model-based development approach, even on the power electronic component development area as well. So we can use the latest the latest model-based development tools like MATLAB, Simulink, Simscape, and even there are other companies like Opal RT, Ricardo. So many software organizations are there which are providing model-based development solutions for the power electronic systems. So utilizing these model-based development systems, we can do a lot of improvement. We can study the optimization, we can study the possible improvements in the power electronics area, especially by performing simulations related to studying the losses. So one of the key area is basically to understand the losses. So where is the losses happening, at what driving conditions the losses are happening, right? So one of the key area you can also concentrate is basically segment the losses of the power electronic systems in the electric vehicle, right? Say for example, we have acceleration stage in an electric vehicle, we have a cruising stage in an electric vehicle, we have a deceleration stage where the regenerative braking comes into picture. So each and every stage has its own challenges on the power electronic component. And obviously, when we are focusing, when you are looking for a problem statement in this particular area, obviously your focus area could be to improve, improve this operational ability of these power electronic components. Still meeting all these minimum requirements, minimum acceleration requirement, satisfying how to maintain the performance of the for example, consider a situation like acceleration, right? Whenever an electric vehicle accelerates, there is a huge stress acting upon the power electronic component, because these power electronic semiconductors or the power electronic, all the passive components present in the power electronic system, they need to carry huge currents like more than 400 ampere to 600, 500 ampere. So when there is a huge current and huge voltage involved in the system, obviously the temperature rise is going to be a very challenging thing. So when we are so obviously you can perform, as a research scholar, there is a strong demand. You can utilize the simulation tools, modeling and simulation tools to understand the thermal behavior of the power electronic components and to transfer the the challenges into opportunities. And many times, people misunderstand this thermal management and all this area. This is not only for the electrical electronic segment. Obviously, mechanical engineers, mechatronics engineers, even people from these background can utilize the model-based development approach in order to optimize the particular, optimize the system and improve the performance of these power electronic components at any point of time. That's very important. So some of the technical barriers today is basically to attain high dense power electronics. So just if I clearly focus, it is basically the ability to remove the heat. Say if we expect an power electronic inverter or a DC-DC converter or an onboard charger to perform at its maximum potential, obviously they will generate a lot of heat. So the challenge is how we are going to remove this heat, how this the capability of the material technology in order to withstand this heat. That is where the focus is. So when we move for high dense power electronics, the challenge is the ability to remove the heat. So obviously this could be achieved by better materials to reduce the losses and the size, along with improved thermal conductive materials, better thermal management techniques, right? And at the same time, higher switching frequencies. As we go for these wide bandgap semiconducting switching devices, obviously we'll be going for higher frequencies. So they require better isolation, because as we move for higher voltages, higher frequencies, then the need for galvanic isolations comes into picture, right? So then we need to understand, as a research scholar, we can focus on the operational behavior of a power electronic system in case there is a loss of isolation, right? Or we can say you can also study the sensitivity of a power electronic system for a loss of isolation, right? So better isolation, how can we achieve better isolation in the power electronic systems? How can we achieve elimination of the voltage and current oscillations? That is also a key area where we need to focus. So higher operating temperatures are expected when we go for higher performance, and obviously it requires improved thermal solutions. So the thermal solutions can be achieved two ways. One is physically we can bring in some different thermal management systems, but the other way we can utilize other technologies like material technology, manufacturing technology, and we can try to improve the design by applying simulation techniques to attain the optimal thermal management systems. And if you focus on the power electronics, in specifically the board area, the circuit board area. So the board area for the ancillary circuits, they need to be reduced as the power module size is reducing, and the need for faster ancillary circuit response also is increasing. So obviously this will end up in the capability of the gate drive circuits. Today we have these gate drive units. So these gate drive units should be capable enough to operate the circuits or the system at higher frequency. And obviously add on to this, one of the major challenges is basically the noise immunity. So as the electric vehicle components are going to operate at more and more higher frequencies, more and more higher temperatures, higher operating voltages, obviously our noise immunity, the electromagnetic interference related problems are going to increase. So there is a strong need for research in this particular area. How can we improve? Even mechanical engineers have a good scope here. You can think about methodologies to improve the performance of the power electronic components in the presence of electromagnetic interference. So how to build a higher noise immunity capability in the power electronic components. This could be done by mechanical engineers as well as electrical engineers. This is not only focused on electrical people. So all these things, high noise immunity, high temperature capability, short circuit protection, voltage spike suppression, all these are some of the challenges which are attributed towards these power electronic components, especially the passive components and the allied circuits. So whatever the research that we do, if that could be in this particular area, definitely it could contribute, some of the improvement for the both the OEMs, as well as it will also contribute to some of the suppliers also, right? So today, for example, if I take in India, right, in India we are having so many global suppliers. So for example, we have companies like Valeo, for example, companies like ZF. So many global suppliers are there who are actually involved in component development of electric vehicle. Obviously, if you research scholars focus on these particular areas which I'm talking about, obviously these kind of companies, suppliers are also will be interested to collaborate with you people to further improve the support you on the improvement areas. And basically when we look at the operational efficiency, so the target is today already most of the OEMs, companies like Tesla and all, they have already reported more than 96% operating efficiency in their electric motor and more than 97% operating efficiency in their inverters, especially the power electronic DC-DC converter or the onboard charger. Already many companies have reported more than 97% operating efficiency. But the challenge in the motor and the power electronic technology is at present the maximum efficiency region, or what we call the sweet spot. You can very clearly see the sweet spot, the dark red zone, where the efficiency is like around 94-95%. So the challenge is, how can we extend this high efficiency region? right? So today our research, the research scholars should actually focus on how to expand, how to extend this high efficiency region. Say, for example, you can see these two pictures. One is the left-hand side is the motor, and the right one is the efficiency map of the inverter of the BMW i3, for example. Here you can see the inverter, the BMW i3, up from 6,000 RPM to 11,000 RPM. It has a very good efficiency range, more than 97%, around more than 95 to 97%. Whereas the regions like 1,000 RPM to 6,000 RPM, right? Here is where the motor, the inverter is still in the range of 90% of efficiency. So it means here is where the focus area is there. So the operating efficiency of an electric motor or the electric motor's inverter has poor efficiency, especially in the lower RPM, right? Especially in the range of 2,000, 3,000 RPMs. So obviously there is a demand, so the focus area is here. So the research scholars, the focus area is here basically to extend the high efficiency region. One is to further increase the efficiency of the high efficiency region. For example, if you look at the left side plot, we can see the high efficiency of the motor is around 94%. So how can we improve it further more than 94%? What are all the different techniques we can implement to further increase it to more than 94%? At the same time, look at the lower RPM areas like 2000 RPM, 2000 RPM, because when you consider the city conditions, right? Our electric motors, when they are operating under city conditions, they'll be operating at lower RPMs. These higher RPMs and all, like, they'll be very minimal conditions only, right? If you consider a city condition, the motors will be operating mostly in the range of like 1000 RPM, 2000 RPM, 3000 RPM, 4000 RPM. And that is where the more amount of efficiency is needed. And today the push, so we have to try to improve, implement techniques in order to improve the efficiency in these particular key operating areas. Still, there is a huge demand, huge scope is there for improvement. And when we come to the energy storage system, today the whole battery industry is completely dependent upon the materials. You can see the material composition today: lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese, copper, graphite, aluminum, steel, right? Everything. So the whole battery system, the battery ecosystem is completely dependent on the materials. And you can see the key materials like the lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese, all these are very rare. You can't, they are all starting to deplete. Once we can see the demand in 2030. I don't know if we are still dependent on only these materials. Definitely the whole ecosystem will collapse one day. So there is a huge demand to find alternative materials. So alternative to nickel, alternative to cobalt, alternative to lithium, alternative to manganese, alternative to plastic, alternative to steel. Right? So material science is not having, there is no limit for the material science demand in the industry today, especially in the e-mobility industry. I don't know how many people are understanding that, especially, from the people from the academic background need to understand that there is a huge potential for material science and the metallurgy and the manufacturing technology for the success of electric vehicle domain, especially for the Indian market. So if we look at the need for innovation in the material manufacturing technology, we can clearly see nearly 56% of the CO2 emission comes from the battery background. And you can see very clearly 28% of the CO2 emission of the overall electric vehicle is attributed towards the battery's cathode. Right? And in addition to that, remaining 28% is specifically on the battery cells, the other remaining component of the cell. So there is a huge, nearly you can say 80% potential, 80% of CO2 reduction potential is only there specifically on the battery related aspects. So I urge all the faculties here, I urge all the research scholars here to put all your efforts to improve this battery area, key area, because even though we are doing a lot of work, even though these electric vehicles do not emit pollution directly in the form of gases, the dependency on these materials will definitely bring up more and more pollution to the environment. So I urge all the, I request all the faculty people, research scholars, or the research people from different background to focus on improving the battery and the other segment. So one of the area is basically to improve, to bring up the second life for the electric vehicle batteries. So your research could focus on how to improve the second life of the battery. So can you people imagine, say, for example, an electric vehicle running for 10 years. After 10 years, I am taking the battery pack out of the electric vehicle. And whether this battery pack can be used for other energy storage application? No. Or yes. Yes or no? So the yes or no the answer depends upon how the battery was utilized throughout the life cycle. So when the battery has entered into the electric vehicle, how that battery was utilized? What was the temperature the battery was operated throughout its lifetime? Throughout, for example, 10 years or 15 years, throughout the 10-15 years of its operation in the electric vehicle, what was the average temperature it was operating? Right? What was the fade? What is the capacity fade attained on the battery? So because the capacity fade is a very important factor which decides the second life of the lithium batteries. So as a research scholar, you can focus on improving the capacity fade. How can we reduce the capacity fade on the batteries? And capacity fade doesn't mean that we have to only focus on the specifically on the cell or the battery, but how can we improve the operational behavior of the electric vehicle? Say, for example, the research scholars could focus on managing data management aspects. How can we successfully manage the data of the battery packs? So when we successfully manage the data, in the sense, what are the key important data for electric vehicle battery packs? Voltage, current, battery, resistance, state of charge, state of health, right? So these are all some of the key variables which we need to monitor throughout the lifetime of the battery, lifetime of the vehicle, electric vehicle, right? So that still there is a push, still there is a technological barrier is there. So your research scholars can work with the research institutions or the organizations to improve innovative techniques to monitor the battery pack throughout its entire lifetime. So when we have a better monitoring of the battery pack to maintain its capacity fade and its operational temperature, everything in a controlled range, obviously the second life capability of the batteries can be extended. And when we have a better second life for every battery that we use in an electric vehicle, obviously we don't need to depend on a new battery technology. We don't need to depend on the new battery itself. So we can once again keep on circulating it. So the cycle will continue. So there is a strong push. What does it mean is there is a strong push for research towards recyclability, reusability. So people from mechanical background, metallurgy background, material science background, manufacturing backgrounds, definitely you can think about using some innovative ideas, innovative techniques, which can help to improve the recyclability of the materials. And you can see the recovering of the magic materials is very important here. So from the battery system, from the module, it goes to the shredder. So various processes there in recycling this magic materials from the battery. So obviously the research could be done how optimally we can recover these materials. What kind of better innovative techniques, innovative ideas can be implemented to recover the materials from the batteries, not only from the batteries, even from other key components of the electric vehicle. So when we talk about the enclosure, there, the electric vehicle battery enclosure, obviously the enclosure design is also a very challenging area today. So the research scholars who are working in especially the mechanical background, electrical, electronic, everyone can say, I strongly oppose one thing. What is that is research development happening in only one department. I am a very strong opposer of it. One of the thing which I always appreciate is basically a collaborative research. I always request, people from mechanical background to tie up with electrical department, and the electrical department should definitely connect with mechanical department, and people should get collaborated together, and the research should happen in that way. Unless the research happens in this way, I think it's very difficult to reach a fruitful result out of our research. A collaborative research environment has to be created in your research institution. So I think all the research scholars could understand what I mean from here, right? So if you are a mechanical faculty or a mechanical research scholar, just try to get in touch with the electrical electronic people, just try to involve them in your research. Similarly, the electrical electronics research scholars try to involve the mechanical people, because the whole industry is blended completely. And focusing on only one segment can't address all the challenges actually, right? So when you talk about the battery enclosure also similarly, not only the battery enclosure, the whole battery segment, the battery as a component, it is a mix of mechanical as well as electrical aspects. So one of the aspect is the electrical battery system, the electric vehicle battery system, or the battery enclosure should actually consider the thermal management related aspects. So integrated heating and cooling systems, thermal runaway challenges, optimization of the battery capacity and thereby its lifetime. And similarly, we need to have a better battery design, enclosure design and the battery design to meet the safety aspects like the crash resistance, firewall protection, how safe the battery packs are. So your research can focus on improving the safety of the battery pack, safety of the passenger compartment. Research can focus on improving the durability and the shieldability of these components. So improving the corrosion resistance of these components with respect to the environment, with respect to the passenger compartment as well. And how can we use weight optimization techniques to further improve the torsional stiffness, characteristics like torsional stiffness, structural rigidity, weight minimization, all these things, some of the key areas on the battery enclosure area. So the focus, and in addition to this, the battery charging, the battery and the charger, both these components have a challenging area on the control perspective. So we can utilize various different control strategies for extension of the lifetime of the battery, enhance the performance of the battery system, extending the lifespan by managing the temperature, by managing the charging conditions, by managing the electrical duty cycles. All these things will obviously improve the lifespan of the battery. Obviously, by implementing proper control strategies, by innovative control strategies, we can improve the ability to detect safety failures, safety critical situations in the battery system. So your research can focus on developing innovative techniques which can detect the failures at a very initial point of time. And in addition to that, the fault detection, one of the key area that we can also focus is prognostic based control. So basically the prognostic based control is nothing but development of a supervisory controller, which can basically dynamically adjust the control limits of a battery system over the course of the battery's lifetime. So the research scholars can focus on developing the prognostic based control strategies, which can help us improve the overall performance of the battery pack, at the same time maintaining the ability of the battery pack to achieve a better second life condition. And there is a strong demand for a better algorithm also today. So as a team, the electrical electronic people, even mechanical people, mechatronics engineers, research scholars can work on developing algorithms that could adjust the speed of the charge of the individual electric vehicles, for example, in terms of charging technology. So how to utilize the available charging technology in a more efficient way. So how to implement different algorithms that could adjust the speed of the rate of charging for different electric vehicles which are plugged into a complete charging infrastructure, right? So there is a strong demand in all these areas. We need to understand, we need to address the temperature related issues. So how can we, today the DC-DC converter topology, there also many challenges are there. So people are implementing both a single phase PFC topologies as well as three-phase PFC topologies. So all these, both these DC-DC converter topologies have their own challenges. For example, when we take the single phase PFC topologies, the ability to operate in the discontinuous conduction mode as well as the continuous conduction mode is very important. And reduce the need for the number of power electronic semiconductor switches is very important when we develop the DC-DC converters topologies. At the same time, some of the three-phase DC-DC converter PFC, the power factor correction topologies, have some of the disadvantages, like, or the barriers. Like there are some topologies which actually the strong barrier on achieving higher power density. Whereas some of the topologies in the DC-DC converter, they have a higher EMI electromagnetic interference. So we need to improve the performance of the converter, the DC-DC converter, with respect to the electromagnetic interference environment. So the bidirectional capability. So today the need for research is there to achieve a very higher level of bidirectional, highly efficient bidirectional mode power transfer ability is important. I think in the coming days, our research should focus on all these key areas with respect to your specialization. And with respect to thermal management, everywhere, all the components which I mentioned, everywhere we see thermal management issues are there. So all these things, you can utilize today the various software technologies. We have many CAE optimization softwares, right? On the NVH side, say on the noise vibration harshness. So to improve the noise vibration harshness, we can implement the CAE simulation softwares for the improving the noise vibration harshness. There are softwares like ANSYS, softwares like COMSOL, right? We can utilize these kind of softwares for improving the overall characteristic of the noise vibration characteristics. At the same time, even the operational characteristics of the electric motor and the the electric motor, different electric motors, either it is PMSM or induction motor, all these motors can be studied for their electromagnetic behavior. So we can use the CAE simulations like this in order to understand the electromagnetic behavior and further to optimize their electromagnetic potential. And also for the mechanical engineering people, there's a strong demand. You can work on improving the structural ability of the whole frame. All the whole chassis structure. Also, maintaining a safe environment for the battery packs. So you can utilize. You can focus your research towards developing innovative design, innovative optimized design structures, which could actually improve the safety environment for the battery pack. You can see from the picture on the right side, implementing crash simulations, performing crash simulations using softwares like Nastron, or there are softwares like HyperMesh, HyperWorks related softwares are there, which can actually help you, perform crash simulations, softwares like Abacus. So many softwares are there available in the market today, which are being used by the industry. So as a research scholar, you can definitely get the industry support from the industry directly. Some of the companies like, the ANSYS or the COMSOL, directly they are providing their software free of cost, or sometimes in a very affordable cost to the research scholars in order to perform the research activity. So there is a huge thrust is there, especially on performing CAE simulations. So you can use the present CAE technologies, software technologies, to further improve the safety of the electric vehicle, the battery, or the internal high voltage component. There is a huge demand to understand the fault conditions prior, right? So your area of research could also focus on how to understand the fault, right? How to detect the fault at an initial point of time, right? So all these areas could definitely bring in the gap between the industry and the academic area. And I think I think the whole I was given a very short period of time. So in this time, I just given an overall overview on different aspects that you can focus on as a research scholar, and definitely try to utilize the present software technologies which are available in the market to the maximum, right? Because these software technologies will help us to are definitely helping us to reduce the overall development time. And I believe people can utilize these softwares in a better optimal way to reach your destination, right? And I believe the upcoming sessions from the different research scholars will bring up more and more ideas into specific each topics which I talked about today. Finally, I just want to give one more information to all the participants. See, our company Haritha Techlogics is currently working on a laboratory development for research institutions. So any of you are working on the research area, especially related to motor, battery, or key area of building up a center of excellence for electric vehicle, so feel free to reach me. You can get my email ID from the chat box. I'll just type it in the chat box. So feel free to reach our team for any support regarding developing center of excellence, developing research laboratories in this particular area of research. We'll be happy to do support that area. At the same time, I'm also one of the member of the expert group in the Automotive Skill Development Council. So being a member there, I would also be happy to support any faculty, any management from the institutions who are approaching for any skill development initiatives, programs, anything that could be done for skill development activities. So feel free to reach me for that as well. I hope I have given a small spark in this session. And I think you can take the other sessions in the upcoming days, which can further increase your know-how on this particular area. So thank you, sir. Thank you, the overall coordination team. Sorry for taking extra time just to cover the session. So yeah, I'm giving over it back to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of the management, principal, team, HOD, and the coordinator, I thank our resource person and chief guest, Mr. Prashant Kumar Palani, sir, for a wonderful eye-opening session on electric vehicles. You have given a detailed comparison on demand on electric vehicles and prices and lithium-ion batteries, sir. It covers need for innovation in materials and manufacturing technologies. I hope all the participants acquire basic knowledge in terms of EV. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation.
And if there are any questions, feel free to ask me. You can ask. Maybe I can take another 5 minutes if needed. If there are any questions, some interesting questions, if anything is there.
Yes, participants, if you have any questions, kindly post it in the chat box. Or otherwise, you can share the questions. We can share the email ID. You can post your question back to the Prashant Kumar Palani sir's mail ID.
Yeah, so I'll drop my email ID here. Feel free to reach me, with regard to anything, related to electric mobility. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.